Good evening, everyone. This is the Town Council meeting for December 4, 2018. This is being cablecast and recorded for future rebroadcast. Mr. Boncory, would you lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Have a moment of silence for the passing of our 41st President of the United States, George H.W. Bush. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Counselor Ringman. Here. Counselor Calla. Present. Counselor Christopher.
Here.
Counselor Terry.
Yep.
Counselor Soto. Counselor McDuffie.
Here.
Counselor Conti. Vice President Boncory.
Here.
President Vecchia.
Present. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 20th, 2018 Town
So
Council
moved.
meeting.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We have 3 public hearings this evening. The first one is the town to maintain a uniform tax rate for all classes of property for fiscal year 2019 and authorize the town manager to sign and electronically submit to the LA-5 to the Department of Revenue. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. As you know, the purpose of this hearing is to establish a tax levy percentage and minimum residential factor. A brief review of how the proposed tax rate was developed. Last year, as you know, we went through the reval, a strict scrutiny of all of our values, and we passed with flying colors. This year is what's known as an interim year with adjustment to values necessary based upon the sales that occurred in 17. So the sales occur in 17, they're reviewed and reconciled by the assessing department in 18 to set the 2019 values. So that's how that calendar goes. The interim year adjustment form has been submitted, reviewed, and approved by the Department of Revenue. So based upon the sales from 2017, the results are the average single-family value is now at $466,243, or an 11% increase in assessed value. The average single-family tax bill is now $6,145, or a 3.34% increase, or $199 per year. And this is based upon the tax rate of $13.18 per $1,000 of value. The proposed rate of $13.18 pending DOR approval is actually a decrease from last year's rate of $14.16. It's a decrease of 98 cents. We had very strong new growth. I believe, definitely in my time here, and I did a little research, we hit $20 million in new growth for the first time in this town. That's a lot, and that's significant. $20,478,700 in assessed value, which equates to $289,978 in new tax dollars to the town. So, and this is mostly due to condo conversions. Some new, I'm sure everyone has seen what's going on around town, a lot of condo conversion, some new construction, and combined smaller projects. And this trend of rising new growth appears to be continuing in the town. Our building permit number is up approximately 10% over this time last year. So we hope to be able to achieve similar growth for next year. A memo has been circulated to the council by the Board of Assessors, and the assessors voted to recommend that the council retain the uniform tax rate for FY19. Thank you.
I'll open it up to public comment. Anyone wish to be heard? Hearing none, anybody on the council like to ask a question or make a comment?
What was the new The new taxes that came into the town this year, 200 and,
Total tax dollars, 289,978.
289,
And I believe that's the highest amount,
Yeah.
as I say, in my experience, and I went back, I haven't been able to
Yeah, I
find
know, I
anything
just-
higher.
I thought it was a different number. That's great, thank you.
Any further comment? Hearing none, I'll close that hearing out. Next hearing is a transfer of
Thank you, Mr. President.
$102,499.13 from free cash to the Building Stabilization Fund in accordance with the Town Council policy. Would you like to make a comment, Counselor Lettieri?
Sure, the town council has a policy on free cash. This was an item that was, that we overlooked at the last meeting, so this is just cleaning up the last transfer to be done. The policy on free cash going to building stabilization is 10%, or it's capped at 300,000. This is the one fund that has reached its cap, so it's a little less than 10%. But the amount to transfer was $102,499.13 from free cash to building stabilization, which would make that balance right now at the 300,000 threshold. We did have a finance committee meeting earlier, and it was approved for positive recommendation unanimously for the council.
Thank you, Counselor Lettieri. I'll open it up to public comment. Hearing none, any counselors like to make a comment? Questions? Hearing none, I'll close out that public hearing. We'll ask from the town council to introduce a new ordinance to change the speed limit to 25 miles per hour. Counselor Boncory.
Yes, we had a meeting with the Rules and Ordinance Committee prior to this meeting, and we voted to add a new chapter in our rules and ordinances under Chapter 1012, Operation of Vehicles, and we are going to submit a motion earlier under old business to approve setting a speed limit for Shirley Street from the intersection of Washington Avenue to the intersection of Shirley Street and Elliott Street, and from Elliott Street and Taft Avenue, and from Taft Avenue to Deer Island to be 25 miles per hour. That is the exact wording will come out in the motion.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody wish to be heard in public?
Just a quick question.
Yes, Tom
Isn't
Riley.
Taft Avenue already 20 miles per hour?
Taft Avenue is already posted at 20 miles an hour, but it is not
Enforceably.
something that they can enforce because there's no speed limit in Winthrop that says 20 miles an hour. There has been no bylaw or ordinance ever,
Just a sign.
just a sign. There's never been an ordinance setting a speed limit, so they couldn't ticket anybody before, until we pass this.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone from the council? Hearing none, I'll close that portion of the public hearing. Under general information and recommendations, we have a presentation by the Board of Health.
I'm sure this will be. Council President Vecchia, Vice President Boncory, and members of the Winthrop Town Council. For the record, my name is Bill Schmidt, and I'm currently Chair of Winthrop's Board of Health. I'm here with fellow board members Astrid Wines and Susan McGuire. The mission of Winthrop's Board of Health is to protect, promote, and regulate public health in the town of Winthrop. The Board of Health assumes a proactive approach in dealing with the challenges of public health. We're here tonight to present to the Town Council proposed changes to the regulation of the Winthrop Board of Health prohibiting smoking in workplaces and public places. I believe that was sent to you, a draft copy. As the regulation states, this regulation is promulgated under the authority granted to the Winthrop Board of Health pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 111, Section 31. The Boards of Health may make reasonable health regulations. It's also promulgated pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 270, Section 22J, which states that nothing in this section shall preempt further limitation of smoking by the Commonwealth or any political subdivision of the Commonwealth, such as the town. Even though not required by law, the Board of Health will be holding a public hearing this Thursday, December 6th at 6 o'clock in the Lyceum in the E.B. Newton School Building to hear comments from interested citizens, affected businesses, and other parties A legal notice was in the transcript last week. We're here tonight as part of our community outreach effort to hear your comments and concerns. Our proposed changes are based on our sincere belief that they will benefit the public health and our fellow citizens in the town of Winthrop. And since we have the authority to do this, we're very mindful of the authority that we have been given. The current Winthrop regulation was promulgated by the Board of Health in 2015, which included 2 members of the present town council. This regulation contains presently many excellent provisions, including prohibitions of smoking in workplaces, retail tobacco stores, town-owned playgrounds and athletic fields, hotels, motels, bed and breakfast rooms, and all outdoor areas where food and or beverages are served to the public by employees of restaurants, bars, and taverns. In addition, there's a section on enforcement. Our proposed changes are intended to strengthen the regulation so that it is among the best in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Earlier this year, our regional municipal tobacco and public health policy agent, funded by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, requested that the Board of Health consider adding to the regulations other changes that have been adopted by many communities in our state. After several monthly meetings of the Board of Health, which are open to the public, and much discussion and debate, the present members of the board passed the draft regulations, which is the subject of tonight's presentation. The draft regulation contains 9 changes to the existing regulation as follows: the addition of a purpose section, the addition of a prohibition on the use of e-cigarettes, the addition of a prohibition in membership associations or clubs, the addition of a prohibition within 25 feet of any municipal building entranceway, the addition of a prohibition in smoking bars, the addition of a prohibition in town-owned parks and beaches, the addition of a prohibition in nursing homes, the addition of prohibition in bus stop shelters and waiting areas, and finally, the addition of stronger language prohibiting smoking in outdoor areas of restaurants, bars, and taverns. As you probably know, the Surgeon General of the United States has reported on the health consequences of involuntary exposure to tobacco smoke. The research attests conclusively to the health hazards of secondhand smoke, with evidence that it causes cancer, respiratory and cardiac diseases, negative birth outcomes, and irritations to the eyes, nose, and throat. The harmful effects of tobacco smoke are not confined to smokers, but also cause severe discomfort and illness to non-smokers. There is, in fact, no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke. We believe that the elimination of secondhand smoke in additional areas of the town will help prevent upper respiratory problems, cancer deaths, and heart-related deaths. We are open to hearing your comments and concerns about this draft regulation. Thank you very much.
Anybody wish to comment?
Well, I'll comment.
Yeah, I have a question, Bill.
Sure.
So,
Wait, let's get the microphone because I'm going to.
Councilor McDuffie. Councilor McDuffie, please.
thank you. It sounds like it doesn't leave a whole lot of places where smoking is allowed.
It doesn't leave any.
And so I completely agree with the idea of protecting non-smokers from undesired exposure to it. But as far as outdoor locations in particular, what is still
So if you're walking
available?
down the street, you could certainly smoke. So basically, in terms of outdoor particularly, you would talk about, so primarily it's in workplaces, in public places. So in private places, like homes, obviously, there's no control over
Right.
homes. If you're walking down the street, it's not a prohibition there. But if you're talking about municipal, we're talking about a buffer zone, so now a 25-foot buffer zone.
Right.
So outside of that buffer zone, obviously, you'd be able to smoke. So for instance, if you said the public library or town hall, if you took 25 feet from there,
Right.
say in the middle of the area out
Yeah.
front there, you could smoke there.
as you approach this 25-foot?
Right. So, and if you're walking by the library, with not the intention of going in, you wouldn't be afforded for it. But it's basically the additions of, the prohibitions within certain businesses, as well as some areas that are publicly owned. But private areas, we don't have authority over.
And that is why taverns, restaurants, pubs, things like that.
We have that
have an
already.
outdoor area. That's for the protection of the
So what we have
employees.
right now for outdoor areas is, the way the regulation's currently drafted, it's areas that are served by people. So say, for instance, you have a restaurant
Right.
that has an outdoor area.
Right.
If the patrons there went into the restaurant and brought the food out, currently, they could smoke there. However, if I'm sitting there hoping to eat outside, not having any influence of smoke, somebody brings food and sits next to me and smoke, currently, there's no prohibition against that. So this will do, not only protect the employees, but other patrons there who want to be able to have their meal
That's-
without having somebody sitting next to them smoking.
Got it. That's what I thought you were taking, that approach. Well, that's great. I agree. Thank you.
Councilman Boncory.
Yes. We went through this a couple of years ago when you put your other drafts. And I thought we agreed we weren't gonna touch the beaches or the parks. Now, all of a sudden, you're going after the beaches and the parks, where people sit for hours and have the opportunity to have a smoke. I mean, the regulation you're putting now is, you can't go sit on a park bench and have a cigar or a cigarette anywhere in the town.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing you have to keep in mind is that secondhand smoke, any level is harmful. So if I pass you and you're smoking, that is harmful.
Well,
The other thing is.
if you see me smoking, you
Yeah.
don't pass me, you go around me.
Well,
It's
I don't know.
very obvious. You
That's
don't
not
have
always
to come
possible
into
on a
to
beach
smoking.
and in a park, that when I'm downwind from you, why do I have to move away? That is not really fair to the 86% of non-smoking citizens we have.
But it is taking away the rights of the 14% of the people that still smoke and enjoy smoking and want to have a place to smoke. Now, you've taken away restaurants, you've taken away parks, you've taken away the beach, already we've taken away all the facilities around town. Now you're saying outside the restaurant, where people go into, like say they're at JW's and they're having dinner, but they go outside to have a smoke, and he has an ashtray outside, and
That
he
would
has a
be
small
covered.
smoking area.
That wouldn't be covered if you have an
You
eating
are
area.
just saying you
No, if
can't
no,
go
if you're talking about-
outside.
If you're talking about an eating area.
That's
Not
what you're saying.
going out,
You can go
that's,
outside a restaurant
yeah.
and smoke.
That's
We're
not
talking,
what you're
we're
saying.
talking about a serving area for food.
No,
So-
you're talking about any area outside the restaurant.
No,
no, no.
No, the entrance is the public buildings.
No, that's the entrance.
Buildings,
Right,
25
it's the
feet
town hall, it's
is
not a
buildings.
entranceway. So for instance, Michael's, it doesn't cover Michael's Mall, for instance. But if you had a serving area for food out there, it would cover that. Let me make
Even
this-
if there was no food out there?
No.
No, it's just, we're talking about a restaurant where there's food being served or consumed. Not,
Well,
if you read the reg. But let me another point, which you talked about the parks. When you have these, I was down at the concerts last year, we have down at the gazebo, and you got 50, 100 people sitting out there. Right now, somebody comes down, sits down and starts smoking a cigar with all these other people around there. There's nothing you can do about it.
Did they? Has that happened?
Yes,
Yes.
I was there last year listening to a concert by Robert Domenico's band.
Were you there?
No, I wasn't there.
Yeah. No, he wasn't there. It wasn't Phil.
Because if I see a crowd of people, I don't go in.
No, but I'm saying, so you
I don't expect them to
you
come
have,
and-
you have a lot of circumstances, quite frankly, where you don't necessarily think about, but it affects a lot of people. If you're sitting out here, like you have a concert out here on the, sometimes you have in front of the library. Right now, you have somebody comes out there, wants to start smoking, they can do that. There's nothing you can do. So it does make a difference. And again, let me add one other point. We're going to still hear testimony. This is a draft. This is our feeling about this. So, we want to see what people have to say.
So you're saying that on your drive and on Euro Beach, if someone's going there for the entire day to sit and get the sun, they cannot have a
The
cigarette? or a-
DCR beach, as you know right now, the DCR beach, you can't smoke on the
You can't
DCR
smoke
beach.
on state beaches. That's already a law. So it would only affect our
It
town
affects
beaches.
Euro Beach
Euro Beach and Donovan's Beach.
and Donovan's Beach
Okay.
and Pico
And let me
Beach.
bring up one more point about the beaches especially, because we're talking about a lot of littering with cigarette butts, okay? Do you know what cigarette butts are made of?
Oh,
Anyone?
absolutely, but we're not
No,
talking
what-
about
do you know what
litter,
they're
we're
made
talking about prohibiting someone from an enjoyment
No,
of
but
their
that's
life.
connected to littering, because that's a huge problem at beaches. So can I just make the point that, you know, if they're not made out of cotton, as is, you know, the belief of many people, they're made out of plastic, okay? We're talking about 1.36 billion pounds of littered cigarette butts worldwide per year. That's a lot of plastic that goes into our oceans and into our environment, and it's not biodegradable stuff.
But you're
So, can't let-
considering that
Yeah.
everybody's throwing their butts on the beach and not taking them off with them.
Yes, that is.
Councilor
that-
Raymond?
I'm very interested to hear what our Board of Health members have to say on this issue, and I think the constant talking over of each other is causing the conversation to be difficult to follow.
So I'm enjoying beaches that go with my children. I have a 21-month-old kid that picks up everything and puts it in their mouth. And that's, a lot of other kids do the same thing. And he has repeatedly picked up cigarette butts on our beaches and put them in his mouth. With toxins in them, they're not healthy, there's nicotine in them. I don't want my kid, you know, putting that in their mouth. I don't know about other people, but I think that should be considered. The environmental and the health effect of the litter is actually probably larger than the smoke exposure problem in open spaces like parks and beaches. So I just want to make that point in addition to the public health aspect of secondhand smoke, which should not be, you know, disregarded.
I agree with you that the Board of Health should make some regulations on littering, and parents should be watching their children so they don't pick up cigarette butts. But I don't think that the Board of Health should be taking more personal liberties away from people. And you've been doing that since you've been on the Board of Health. This past Board of Health has been taking one liberty after another, and it's getting to the point where I'm really upset about it.
We're not doing anything other than other communities. Our surrounding communities have already banned these things. We have a lot
I
of
wasn't
communities
finished, but
in
that's
our town.
okay.
Boston has banned smoking in their public parks, you know. I think this is nothing unusual. This is nothing out of the ordinary at all. This is nothing more strict than other towns.
Councilor Montgomery?
We're not Cambridge or Somerville, Boston. We're a nice little community where people like to enjoy their freedoms and enjoy their beach, enjoy their parks, and enjoy what they would like to do on those beaches and parks.
I'm sure Cambridge and Somerville and Boston citizens like to enjoy their parks as well. I don't think that's anything unique to our community.
Anyone else wish to be heard on the
When's your
council?
public hearing?
Thursday night, the public hearing. We've advertised in the paper. In addition, we've sent out a letter to all of the restaurants, membership associations. We've also told them that they can submit testimony as well as the public through the end of December. And we'll take all that information under advisement. But as I said before, we're looking at when you balance rights, as always, you know, liberties and rights, because government is in the business of regulations, whether it's us or the town council or anybody else, balancing the rights of the 85 or 90% who don't smoke versus the 10 or 15% who do smoke, and the health implications are pretty serious.
Have you invited the vendors as well?
Yes.
Because I know your e-cigarette part hits the commerce part of it as well.
Well, we have not mentioned vendors per se, but what we have right now currently in the regs is a prohibition against smoking. So we've added e-cigarettes,
Got it.
quite
Okay.
frankly, because it's a new technology
Yep.
that wasn't around before.
No problem.
Another addition you're making is about private clubs and social clubs?
We've asked them to see what, in terms of, we're talking about food areas? Yeah,
No, you're,
we're talking about food areas, yes.
I
okay.
can respond to that. I think you're mentioning the yacht clubs, the Elks, is that what you're referring to?
I
or-
believe what I heard, because I didn't get a copy of this, I don't know why was I intentionally left out? I don't know,
You
because
have
you
to
know
ask
my
Denise.
position
It's
on
in the
it.
package.
But
It's in your package.
It was sent to all,
It was
It
in
was
the,
in-
it was in the agenda package.
in the agenda package that I put, I only got the agenda, I don't know why, I didn't get any motions.
but,
You were not left out.
okay.
Probably him in a cigarette.
Read that part to me about what you're doing with social clubs.
So, it's basically, we're adding membership associations, which are clubs, to the list of prohibiting areas. Now, my understanding, and I've been told, and again, this is all open to discussion, I've been told by our people in inspectional services that most of the current yacht clubs, et cetera, already have prohibitions against smoking.
Because they have voted them themselves.
We want to see,
Okay.
again, people have a chance to respond with their concerns. We will listen to those concerns.
There are clubs and social clubs that do allow smoking. Of course, the Elks and other clubs have voted against it, the yacht clubs in this town. But if I were to open a social club tomorrow, because I can't smoke anywhere else in town now, and it's gonna be a smoking club, you're gonna prohibit that.
31 Buchanan Street.
No, not 31.
There's a social club there already.
Council,
No, I'm very serious
No, I
about this.
understand that, but
Because like the Rivera Oaks, they did not pass a no smoking. They smoke in the Rivera Oaks. They smoke in the VFW in Rivera.
But what about the
Because the
employee?
private club passed them.
Yeah, but you have
That they
employees,
wanted
again,
smoking.
you have employees there who get affected?
Yes.
I'm sure they do. I'm
Right,
sure they
so,
do.
so again, we,
But they have them. And I was always under the assumption that a private social club can do whatever it wants in the privacy of their own social club.
it's already been litigated, so they don't. I can show you the court case if you want to see it at some point.
okay, we have a couple of councils that would like to make a few points.
Yes, all right.
Council Lettieri, then I'll get you Council Christopher.
I want to thank you. I know it's not easy, and
I enjoyed
we do
this.
appreciate the work you do. I think you're doing a really good job with this. I do have not an issue, but I would rather discuss the smoking and the negative effects of the smoking rather than the littering at the beaches, because there are, people bring food, they bring sandwiches in plastic bags, and we're not eliminating that. So, I do think, to me, the secondhand smoke is enough to eliminate it, but I would be wary about the trash aspect, because there's a lot of other trash that goes on these beaches that probably shouldn't or aren't cleaned up or whatever. But I do appreciate the work you do. It's not easy, and I think we're a better community for it.
Thank you, Council.
Council Christopher.
Sure.
I can tell how much Bill is enjoying this. And I want to thank everybody for your work. It's good to bring us up to speed on a lot of these things. But my question is around enforcement. It seems to me, I hang out in Boston a lot. I walk through Boston Common. People still smoke. It's a pretty regular thing. It's a tough thing to enforce, I would imagine. Have other communities been more successful with this than others, and is that something that you've looked into? Just because I think that it's great in theory, at least around restaurants, it would be a pretty easy thing, but as far as parks and beaches and everything else goes, I think it would be a tough thing for the town to get their arms around.
Well, I think enforcement of any law, whether it's stop signs or anything else to some degree, is difficult. I mean, what you do is you can prescribe what is legal and what's not legal. And then the enforcement piece of it, Board of Health can enforce it right now, any of our agents, which means inspectional service, which means the tobacco control person. As you're right, it's relatively easy if you're talking about a workplace area, and it is more difficult in the wide open spaces. But if there's a gathering of, again, we're looking at a situation, if there's going to be a gathering of 100 people listening to a concert, there may be police there, and other people there, that's probably relatively easy to enforce. But somebody smoking in there when it's 20 degrees out and nobody else is around when they're walking their dog,
Well, it'll still be illegal.
What's that?
It'll still be illegal.
Right, but what I'm saying, he asked about enforcement.
Yes.
I mean, that's the truth with any law.
But
The intent, I agree with this in terms of the intent is to diminish the impacts of secondhand smoke. That's the overall intent of let's limit it as much as possible of the potential impacts to everyone in our community. And it's not to say it's perfectly going to be enforced that every time someone smokes a butt in a park that the cops are going to run out and write them a ticket, but it's over time, if someone gets dinged, it may change their attitude. If someone knows the rules on the book, they may not even entertain it. And hopefully, in kids not seeing it as normalized in public places, maybe it will dissuade them as well. So, like, I know these are like grand reach type of things in terms of we want to set a policy to change things. I mean, drinking and driving is illegal and plenty of people still do it. It's not that this is going to change everyone, but if it's our spaces that we're in control of, we can limit the impacts that people have on one another. And I kind of agree with this, the mindset between this.
It's not our spaces.
Here's the thing though,
Especially a private club or something.
I'm not, I don't think the Board of Health is looking to entertain the argument that we're not facilitating places for people to smoke. People are free to smoke, they can if they want to, we're just limiting the number of places that they can do it legally. And it's not that we're saying people can't smoke, it's you can't smoke here, you can walk 100 feet over there and go smoke, so you don't blow your smoke in my kid's face. So I'd say the same thing, so, I mean.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Just
Thank you
one
very
more-
much.
One more point, sorry. Just
Please
what
do.
the town manager said about dissuading, kids and teenagers from seeing smoking and taking the normalcy out of seeing people smoke, I think is a very important point. Over time, we'll maybe change people's, attitude towards smoking to just not smoke at all. And that will reduce the numbers of smokers overall in the community.
Okay. Thank you very much for all your work, the entire board, I appreciate it.
And believe me, the board is a great board to work with.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Council President?
Yes.
I also wanted to thank the Board of Health and Astrid Wines in particular for the very detailed and thoughtful memorandum about the airport noise pollution.
Yes, good point.
And strategies that the town ought to consider going forward. I thought it was so well put together and so helpful, and thank you so much. I know that was a ton of work.
Thank you.
For letting me know.
Okay,
Thank
public comment. No public comment. Tom Riley?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Tom Riley of 30 Cottage Park Road. Here to address once again the issue of the center zoning. We would ask much that the council take some action regarding the center zoning issue. I know people have talked about the formation of a committee, and there seems to be some general agreement that that should take place, but nothing has happened yet. We've been here for over a year discussing the matter of the center zoning, how the residents, number one, feel that they were not included in the decisions to make those such amendments to the zoning act in 2014, and number two, to try and describe what they see as the negative effects of the multi-unit zoning for the center area. So I ask you, tonight you could do it. You could find, if the mechanisms have been discussed, people are familiar with the options that people have been thinking about, but I think the time has come to do it right now. We filed a petition in May under the provisions of the charter that required a decision by the council in August. Now, we realized there were other matters pending and that there was a desire to wait until a planner was on board and a manager. Those things are in effect now. So that's, the deadline in the charter is long gone by, but I think it's time now to take that action. It's particularly pressing right now because we now have coming before the planning board within the next couple of weeks a proposal to build a 5-story building. We were talking before about the fear of a 20-unit building. Now they're coming up with a 40-story building and 13,000 plus square feet. 5 stories, 40 units. An expectation of 50 to 80 people according to the submission by the developer. 34 parking spaces. Well, the excess cars are only going to go on the streets of an already crowded neighborhood. We don't think that not only is that a problem, but there's an adjacent property on the other side with somebody who's been ready to move on a 4-story building. I just don't see how those things can take place. I think it's well over time that this matter be addressed in some fashion. And I just urge you to take the action tonight to create some committee in some fashion to review the zoning law and to include input from the residents, business owners, and all the concerned citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Okay. Public comment is over. Correspondence, we have none. Committee reports will defer to old business and new business, because some of you already spoke on those issues. Town Manager's report.
Sure. So, hitting on this a little bit later, I have a memo concerning my manager's committee for the Center Business District and the appointment of that committee. I will be out of the country starting tomorrow until Sunday. David Rodriguez will be assigned the duties of town manager in my absence. That said, I will be available by email and text if anyone needs to get in touch with me. The community meeting, as just referred to, about the old Family Dollar site is December 13th at 6 p.m. That's the community and resident meeting, and that's in the E.B. Newton building. Residential parking stickers for 2019 are available online or from the treasurer's office in Town Hall. The red 2018 permits expire on Monday, December 31st. Leaf pickup will be conducted on Saturday, December 15th, and DPW will be closing the compost area for the season on Saturday, December 8th. And that is all from my office.
All right, the school department update. I was not at the meeting last night. I was at a family wake, but I do have an update courtesy of Patty Haynes. 39 students received the John and Abigail Adams scholarships last night. They were recognized at the meeting last night and received certificates from the superintendent of schools. The school committee unanimously voted to approve the Winthrop High School cheerleaders out-of-state travel request to Ocean City, Maryland, to participate in the Nationals. And there was a moment of silence for 3 employees who passed away. They were Winthrop Public School employees that passed away the last year. Chris Landrigan, Don Sullivan, and Ellen Jones. And that was basically it. Okay. Under old business. I have a motion out of one of the public hearings. The town maintains a uniform tax rate for all classes. I will read the motion by the town manager. That the town council motions that the town maintains a uniform tax rate for all classes of property for fiscal 2019 and authorize the town manager to sign and electronically submit the LA5 to the Department of Revenue.
I will so move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussions on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. I'll refer to the Chair of Finance.
Okay. From Finance, we have a motion to transfer $102,499.13 from free cash to the Building Stabilization Fund in accordance with Town Council policy, or take any other action relative thereto. It has come out of Finance with positive recommendation.
So it doesn't need a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, do I get a roll call, please?
Counsel Ingman.
Yes.
Counsel Callow.
Yes.
Counsel Christopher.
Yes.
Counsel Terry.
Yes.
Counsel Certo. Counsel McDuffie.
Yes.
Counsel Conti. Vice President Boncory.
Yes.
President Vecchia.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Town Council to introduce a new ordinance to change the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. Specifically, I'll refer to the Rules and Ordinance Chairperson.
The Rules and Ordinance Committee is proposing the following motion. That is a motion to amend the Town of Winthrop ordinances by adding a new section which will be 10.12005 speed limits. Section A, saying no person shall drive a vehicle on Shirley Street from the intersection of Shirley Street and Washington Avenue to the intersection of Shirley Street and Elliott Street, and from the intersection of Elliott Street and Taft Avenue or upon Taft Avenue at a speed in excess of 25 miles per hour. Signs posting the speed limit at 25 miles per hour shall be posted along said route.
A motion has been made, and it's been approved come out as a positive recommendation. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, if I may.
Please.
For the actual ordinance, I would recommend against including a requirement for the signs. We need to have the signs, but I don't think that that should be in the ordinance.
Okay, I mean, that, I just added, want to take that out? Okay.
I think so.
No objection.
Okay, so the motion with the changes.
The motion will be, no person shall drive a vehicle on Shirley Street from the intersection of Shirley Street and Washington Avenue to the intersection of Shirley Street and Elliott Street, and from the intersection of Elliott Street and Taft Avenue or on Taft Avenue at a speed in excess of 25 miles per hour.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Update on the kindergarten funding, Council Lettieri.
Thank you. I had asked for this to be on the agenda under the Finance Committee, and we were fortunate to have Superintendent Howard here to discuss what has been going on, and very happy to report that they have added an additional kindergarten classroom. I think the funding that was approved by the council was roughly $154,000. They are not at this time, I think Superintendent Howard didn't think it was prudent with all the adjustments that had to be made to go back into the high school at this time, but the additional classroom is in and up and running at the Gorman Fort Banks, and I think, the plan is to try to reactivate the TOT program at the high school in September. I think the funding that was allotted for them, including the high school, was $154,000, and I think they've used $95,000 and change, which is pretty much right on budget what they had said if they had not moved to the high school. I think the superintendent was extremely transparent through this whole process, and I applaud her for her actions, and all is well as of now. So I just wanted to report on that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? No. Under new business, transfer $27,400 from capital stabilization general fund for fiscal 18 ladder 1 repairs.
Motion to refer to finance?
Motion has been made, refer to
Second.
finance. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Transfer $20,000 from capital stabilization to general fund, special article FY16 fire station feasibility study.
I think that's $27,400, not $20,000.
The first one was 27.
No, the second one, the one for the feasibility study shows here, $27,400. Is that?
No, I sent another.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Correcting it, I'm
Okay.
sorry, there's another one sent in,
Okay.
sorry.
So do I have a motion?
Motion to refer to finance.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Transfer $20,000 to replenish general fund, special article FY14 derelict properties.
Motion to refer.
Motion refer, do we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we have some technical changes. I'll let you just give us an overview on this thing.
Sure. So to begin, I'm happy to have Assistant Town Manager David Rodriguez on staff. It helps to have a lawyer in-house to help me work through some of these things. Essentially, we need the votes that we have on record to reflect guidance that we've received from bond counsel, as well as our outside counsel, so that we can seek the loans appropriately and go out for bonding appropriately. With that, these first two technical changes need to happen concerning the vote from last calendar year in 2017 for the in August 1st, 2017. That was for the $3,920,000. And then the subsequent appropriation that happened on November 13th of $4,931,500. Those two amounts of money need to be essentially reordered by the council with the appropriate language so that we can go out to borrow with them. With the orders that Councilor Engman presented and like the conditions, we cannot it's not legally prudent to attach those to our loan authorization. So what we have shifted those into is an order to the town manager concerning those 5 points that we can commit to. Then you have, which you can vote on those tonight, the terms of the orders, which will then lead into the appointment of the Center Business District Committee. And then at the next meeting, you would vote the correct language for the 2 loans that you have already authorized on August 1st, 2017, and then August 15th, 2017, and November 13th, 2018. So at the next meeting on the 18th, you will vote for these 2 amounts of money with the correct language associated with them so we can legally borrow.
Okay, so we're voting, the motion is, the text of the motion is, that I move that the town council issue the following order with respect to the Center Business District Infrastructure Project.
That's correct.
Order that the town manager takes the following actions within the next 90 days and prior to putting the Center Business District Infrastructure Project out to bid. 1. Prepare and obtain a construction phasing plan, which shall include sites the town will make available for equipment and material storages, the conditions or restrictions placed upon any vehicle or material storage, a dust, debris, pest mitigation plan, details about the placement of a temporary sidewalk, wayfinding and signage, accessible public parking areas in the construction area, and traffic flow during the construction process. 2. Obtain a peer review of the engineering work that includes review of the underlying assumptions included in the engineering plans, ensuring consistency with industry best practices regarding climate change considerations, stormwater outflow regulations, proposed surface restoration work, and potential future development within the Center Business District. 3. Consider and purpose a value capture plan. 4. Integrate the surface restoration design into the overall construction documents through the pre-construction phase and present said design at a public meeting. And 5. Develop and present an updated financing plan for all aspects of the project, including surface restoration, landscaping work, and construction phasing. Any discussion on the motion? Or I need a second first.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? No discussion.
Just to be prudent, I think the 2 councilors who recused themselves from the original vote should recuse themselves from this vote as well, just to watch themselves. And since it's not an appropriation of funds, you guys are fine with less votes.
Okay. And I'll take a vote. Yes.
So what was exactly the difference? We voted on this the second time, and that wasn't, it didn't have the correct wording? Is that?
It was voted on as part of the bond package, and it has to be separated out, so it's not.
And we need specific language in the bond package that we didn't have, and it was also going through the process with SRF and things like that. But this is tight language for the order, and then at the next meeting, we'll vote on those 2 amounts of money again, so the correct language is passed.
And a lot of this was Heather's information that she wanted in originally. And I understand you met, and you discussed this with David
I spoke with
Rodriguez.
him, yes, and the all the substance of what I had wanted to see is all here, and I'm very pleased with the town manager and Mr. Rodriguez for correcting some of the technical deficiencies there. I think this is a good approach.
Good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I recuse.
Abstention.
Okay. We have 2 recuses, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Okay, on to, so that covers these 3 items, essentially in omnibus fashion. With the appointment, I included a memo in this week's packet concerning the Center Business District Committee. Instead of come up with my own charge for it and trying to finesse things, I used the words of Councilor Engman to inform the charge of this committee, because that really is the place where I believe the work of this committee starts. Here you go.
Is it in our packet?
I don't know. Maybe Larissa didn't send it out. So basically, I'm having the Center Business District Committee, and what they're going to be charged with is working with the Assistant Town Manager to first once we get to 100% design, have that design peer reviewed, start working towards a soft construction phasing plan that leads us so we can hammer these things out with a construction company once we bid out the documents. This would be what's year one work, what's year two work, what's the streets that go in order and things like that, as well as some of the particulars concerning a full financial plan and the incorporation of the landscape architect work. We can't dictate that they contract with the same landscape architect, so we can only help inform the process with the plans that we already have, and strongly suggest eventually that they re-engage with the firm that provided those plans. Originally did the work that the councilors had looked for. So as of right now, who I'm looking to appoint would be Councilor Christopher, Peter Lacerdo, Joe Clark, Michelle Murray, and Joe Aiello are the 5 members of that committee that would be working alongside the Assistant Town Manager. I hope that your first meeting happens within the next 2 weeks, and we hit the ground running and make sure that people in the public know that this committee is meeting publicly and are willing to discuss any and all parts of this project going forward.
Paul Lacerdo.
Paul Lacerdo. Did I say Peter? Excuse me, Paul. He's been so vocal in the past couple of meetings. I should have remembered his name, and his son, obviously. But yeah, this is a good committee, and I would like to do more actions like this going forward concerning some of our standings on ethics, the middle school site, and some other different types of things that I think that I can task some people with a finite amount of work to do some research on and come back to us with a report and kind of keep it lean and mean so they can work on a few things.
Yes.
Quick question, is the idea with the public meetings so that each item on the list has a public meeting that goes with it, or that all of the meetings of the managers committee would be public?
All of the meetings of the managers committee would be public. I would like them to hit all of those items in public meetings. The only thing that gets a little dicey is like the phasing plan with a contractor. Like, it depends on when the bid process happens and stuff like that. But this isn't a committee that I see only for that 90 days and then their work is done. It's a continue to work through this project, because there are decisions that we will make after the first year of the project that I would like to almost reconvene this committee to have them continue working on it, because again, it's a over $10 million project. It's a ton of money being put into this project, and it's going to have a ton of impacts, and we need to have people available as much as possible to the public.
While we're talking about the center, former council president Tom Riley spoke about a petition that was in front of the council. We had a public hearing and so forth. Are we putting together a committee to kind of review the current status?
So, circling back on that, the new assistant town manager, Dave, has reviewed the previous language that was approved in terms of zoning, as well as the previous maps that were produced by MAPC. We all fully admit that those maps were suboptimal and not very useful for the future. What we are going to do is work with the planning board to figure out if we have to full stop completely redo the zoning for the center business district. We're not going to let any work start there with developments until we have all of our ducks in a row in terms of the zoning of the district. And when you have maps that are indecipherable, that's not really useful. So we can continue to engage with these developers, and they can have their public meetings and take their bumps and stuff like that, but we are going to be working with the planning board and zoning board of appeals as well to clean up some of this language, and we can have those meetings publicly as well. It's not something that isn't being attended to, and Dave has already been doing research concerning the center business district zoning, and you know, how things are structured right now, and the way it's set up, that almost any project that gets proposed down there is going to necessitate variances, both in height and parking for what we've discussed previously. So those are things that we will be re-engaging with the public I have my own thoughts on some of them, but I want all of it to be a public process going forward.
Okay. Okay, I have an appointment to make. Motion that the town council accepts the appointment made by town council president Vecchia to appoint Gina Cassetta as an associate member of the Winthrop Airport Air Pollution, Noise, and Airport Hazards Committee for the term to expire June 30th, 2021, or take any other action thereto.
Second.
Any discussion on the appointment? Hearing none, all those in favor of the president's appointment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, vote and so vote.
Public comment. Tom?
I want to thank you for setting up that mechanism in place and just the council stay engaged in that process also as we go along and have these discussions. I think it's very important. We're trying to get to, we know we need to come to a broad consensus. We've talked about it before. There's only going to be 6 members of the council who are eligible to vote. It takes 5 votes to pass anything. So we need to come up with something that's broadly agreed upon, obviously. I do want to talk about the proposal that's going to be coming before the planning board on the 17th of December. The developer was kind enough to meet with a few of the immediate neighbors and show us the plan. We're extremely concerned about what's there. This is an area that's zoned for 2.5 stories. When we had a lot of discussion about this, the night that we presented the petition, the planning board made a presentation. And when they made the presentation, they said that they made a clear distinction when they put the zoning together. And the council made the same distinction. Properties adjacent to a residential district would not impact the residential districts to the same extent as they were as other buildings. So they passed a 2.5-story limit for properties adjacent to a residential district. The current owner of the property purchased the property 3 years after that zoning act was in place. So they should have been well aware of the fact that that was zoned for 2.5 stories. However, unfortunately, it's indicated to us that the owners of that property were told by town officials that 4 stories would be allowed, that they would be allowed to build 4 stories in spite of the 2.5-story limit. We also know that the owner of the property on the adjacent corner was told the same thing. We've got a real problem with the way this thing has been handled so far. We've got a real problem with the density. I don't see how 34 parking spaces are going to support 50 to 80 people in that 13,000 square foot lot. And if that variance is granted to that developer, the developer across the street would be hard pressed to, in fairness, to not be given the same consideration. So it's got more ramifications than just that particular lot. Mike? I know this goes before the planning board and the Board of Appeals. We'd ask the members of the council that think that this thing is bad for the town, certainly bad for my neighborhood and for my neighbors, that they take action and be there. There's nothing to stop you from going to these meetings and expressing your opinion as a councilor. And we'd ask you to join us when these matters come before those regulatory bodies. First for the planning board, and then second for the necessary variances before the Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, I'll close out public comment. Public relations, we need to discuss the January meeting.
Would it be feasible, Council President, to have one meeting the 15th? I mean, the first obviously is a Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the year, which of the month, which is. So if we had 2 meetings, it would be, I would assume, the 8th and the 22nd. Or the 8th, I mean, the 15th would be the scheduled meeting, the 3rd Tuesday. It would be a little redundant to have the 8th and the 15th. Is the 15th sufficient, or do we have pressing business that we would need 2 meetings in January?
I think we should have 2. I think the 8th and 22nd makes sense. There's, like the second meeting this month and in January, I have procedural things that I want to try to work with you all on. And it's not that the meetings are going to be long. It's just there's certain things I want to try to get in front of you so then they get pushed to committees.
So I'd make a motion that we suspend council rules for the month of January, and instead of having meetings on the first and third Tuesday of the month, we have them on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
No second?
Second.
Oh, okay. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Council President?
Yes, sir.
Just a point of information for anybody watching, there's no mail delivery tomorrow, Wednesday, in case you think you're not getting any mail. There's no mail delivery tomorrow.
Yes. It's a National Day of Mourning by
Yes.
the President of the United States.
Town hall will be open though.
Federal offices are closed. On that note,
I won't be here.
Motion to adjourn?
Well,
Second.
celebration of me being in Mexico.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, mama.